Hey everyone.
Hi.
We just got back from our trip to the Maldives and we went during the rainy season and I think we learned a thing or two about it while there, right?
Absolutely.
So we just wanted to make a quick video now that we're back to just go over some of the pros, some of the cons, and also just some of our tips and tricks if you're thinking about going to the Maldives in the rainy season and how you can make the most of it. So let's get to it. The first thing I think that's worth talking about, because it's probably why you're booking to go in the rainy season, is affordability. This is a very expensive trip to take to the Maldives, and whether you go in the off season or peak season can be astronomically different. So let's go through this. As an example, we booked in May. So this is technically the start of
the rainy season.
The rainy season or monsoon season even. I think rainy is actually an understatement.
Underselling just a little bit.
Depending on when in the off season you go. So May through October is traditionally the time that is considered off peak, right? So we went in May. As an option, just to show you the breakdown here, I looked this up on Marriott.com, and to go when we went in May, for next year, we just did the same time period next year. It would be $650 a night. It's still expensive, but like, wait till you see this. So now let's look at January of 2025. Over $1,800 a night. That's
crazy.
Almost $1,200 difference per night to stay at the exact same room at the exact same resort. So yeah, this is definitely a very valid benefit of, this trip could be not possible for you if you had to pay this much money. Like, we wouldn't have gone if we had to spend $1,800 a night.
And going in peak season, like January, you're not guaranteed amazing weather. It's still a tropical destination. Mm-hmm. You can still get rain. Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but I would much rather get rain when I know I've only spent $600 a night. Yeah. And then if I got rain every day when I spent $1,800 a night, I'd be a little mad, I think.
I think I would have taken that a little harder than we did on our trip. Yeah,
for sure.
So one of the other benefits to going in the off season is the resort capacity. Total guess, we estimated that the resort we stayed at was maybe a quarter to a third at capacity. Mm-hmm. So what did this mean? This meant I'm sure their service is incredible anytime you go, but the service we received was so personalized. Everyone knew who we were. If you're looking to book things like excursions, spa treatments, anything like that, you're not going to have to scramble for spots as much. Restaurant reservations are much more available. Mm-hmm. And it was really evident when we were walking around the resort how much extra space they had for people. Like Ayla, which is the main restaurant at the resort we stayed at, and the outdoor bar had tons of seating that wasn't even in use because of the weather. So it was really easy to imagine how much more packed it could potentially be. Mm-hmm. So when you go in the off season, you're gonna get a quieter atmosphere. You're gonna get a little bit more of that personalized service. And as a bonus, there's more potential for things like upgrades for rooms and a late checkout, which we were able to take advantage of for both of those things.
Yeah, because we're like a gold Marriott Bonvoy member, which isn't super high up, but traditionally we get the option to maybe get a room upgrade and maybe get a late 2 p.m. checkout. Yeah. We've had instances where we didn't get either of those things. Here, we actually got both, right? We didn't, the room was slightly upgraded. We got a sunset view instead of a sunrise view, and then we got to check out at 2 p.m. Yeah. Which is amazing. You think a few hours doesn't make a difference, but when you're on a Maldives island, it definitely...
And when you're going to be traveling for 30 hours, getting that extra luncheon beforehand really helps. Yeah. And also, if we'd not been there in the off season, little things, we got little treats delivered to our room at Turn Down every night, would they have done that much as they did?
And I think even things you get most of the resorts have a butler, which we didn't really use that often, but anytime we messaged him, he was sort of on it within a few minutes. Or, hey, we're finishing up dessert. Yeah. Can you come pick us up because it's raining outside? He was there in a few minutes. Yeah. If the resort was full, who knows how long we would have had to wait for that kind of service, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think another main benefit we should cover is the temperature. Yeah. It might seem silly to talk about the temperature when the whole video is about weather, but an unexpected plus here was because it was so breezy, like, and I say breezy, windy, windy, there was always like a nice sort of cooler temperature blowing through wherever we were, even inside, you could feel it. And I think there was a day or two where the wind stopped and it was super humid. Yeah. And I think we would have like really noticed that. Yeah. And I think the heat, an unexpected benefit of sort of stronger winds in monsoon season is that you get this nice breeze all the time, which actually is an unexpected benefit, I think, right?
Yeah, especially if you are someone that does not handle heat and high humidity well, you're on medication that makes that tough. This might actually be a really good alternative because I could have seen myself, if we had that all the time, I think I would have really struggled.
Yeah, and I think too, like, it rained, but the rain, it's not like kind of like you're in the middle of winter, you know.
It's not a cold rain.
It wasn't cold. It was actually quite pleasant. If it's not torrentially pouring, you could walk through the rain and it was quite pleasant. Like, you know, you're on a tropical island, this nice sort of warm rain. It actually wasn't as bad as you think it is. Nice. So that was just one of those unexpected benefits we found.
All right, so now that we've talked about some of the benefits, what were some of the disadvantages of going in monsoon season? I think the number one thing that would tip people going from one season versus the other than price, is the outdoor activities. This is one of the things that I think was the toughest for us to deal with.
Right.
Because you go to the Maldives for the crystal clear water, for snorkeling and swimming and diving, and we didn't get to do a lot of that because the water was so rough. We probably could have gone in more than we did, but just for safety reasons, we decided to keep it safe. Mm-hmm. So your ability to do those outdoor activities is going to be limited.
Yeah.
So one of the other downsides is that your dining experience can definitely be impacted by the weather. A lot of the resorts we kind of looked at when we were doing our research, most of the resorts, their dining is open air, it's outside. Even though monsoon season is an annual thing, they're really not designed for that. Yeah. We always felt very, very safe, especially in Ayla. It had floor-to-ceiling shutters that they just closed, and it felt very enclosed, very safe. I have seen videos of other resorts where their way of enclosing it is like those plastic window cover things, and you can just kind of see them flapping in the wind, and it didn't look as secure and safe. We were fine, but if you are going in the monsoon season, that might be something to check out, is what is the structure of the restaurants you're going to be eating in?
Yeah.
Just in case.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. Like, even in the main restaurant, Ayla at JW Marriott Maldives, there was even one day where really heavy rain and heavy wind. Let's put a little clip in now to look at sort of what that was like.
Sometimes you have lunch in a typhoon. And that is what is happening right now. It's like hurricane force winds, and these shutters keep blowing open. I can feel the rain on me. It's fine. Everything's fine.
So here's a few clips of some of the weather we experienced so you can really see what we're talking about when we say the wind and rain was intense. And a bonus clip of Grant just doing his best at trying to enjoy his time in the Maldives despite the weather.
Yeah, I'm going to enjoy it, damn it. And then I think one of the final disadvantages of going in monsoon season is these resorts rely on seaplanes to get to them. And that can cause problems for your arrival and departure. Yeah. Thankfully, I think they deal with this kind of thing a lot. So they're pretty resilient, I think, these seaplanes, like for like good or bad, like whether how comfortable you are flying on a seaplane, they will fly if it's like bad weather. Like they're not kind of like big domestic flights. They sort of delay and cancel at the drop of a couple of drops of rain.
They're gonna make it work.
Yeah, so like they'll probably go regardless. So that means like your flight might be a little bumpier than you really anticipated. And we were lucky where, especially both ways there, we didn't experience bad rain or wind. However,
while we were flying,
and like I suffer a little bit of motion sickness, so I was very thankful. I was like, oh great, it's not bumpy.
Yeah.
It's fine. However, when we landed at the resort, it was extremely choppy, the water. Yeah. So we had landed wherever we could, kind of in this like, area, and to get to the dock, they had to go through, it was probably 5 minutes of them trying to kind of taxiing through the water, and that was like a little rough. It was a little rough, but thankfully it was all good, and they had so many staff at the dock to get you sort of safely off the plane.
Yeah. I felt like it was going to be unsafe anticipating getting off, seeing how rough everything was, but they have it down to such a science that
it's almost like a chain link.
A human chain. They just kind of pass you from one person to the next.
Yeah.
It felt very, very safe. We didn't film it because, again, we didn't want to risk damaging our equipment. But
they grabbed like our suitcases and things like that too.
Yeah,
so.
they tell you not to carry anything so your weight's not thrown around.
Yeah, but I think the one thing to keep in mind here is that your arrivals and departures could be impacted. So like the main thing we experienced was we sort of left roughly the time we anticipated leaving the island. However, before we left, where
storm rolled in,
real torrential rain. It was gone in about 5 minutes, but because of what it had done, we had to, instead of taking the plane from the dock, like that was a few steps away, we had to go all the way to the other side of the island. That's the calmer side, right?
On a golf cart.
And a golf cart. Had to get in a little boat, which then took us to a small little jetty out in the water that the plane was on. So we went from a boat to a tiny, like, square jetty that only maybe a few people could stand on, got on the plane.
Yeah.
And it just like, it was fine. It was just a change of plan. We had to be flexible to handle, right?
And clearly they do have a lot of options depending on your mobility and the weather to make it as easy as possible. Mm-hmm. But just know that your arrival and your departure are going to be a little bit of an adventure.
Yeah. All right. So let's jump into some of our tips and tricks for handling this appropriately, being prepared, right? Yeah. Because, you need to take a tiny bit more preparation here before you go.
Yeah. Be like a Boy Scout.
In the rainy season. The first one is, it's more than just rain. And I think you tried to tell me this, where I thought it would just be a lot of rain. Like, and I was probably like, maybe not just showers, but torrential storms, things like that. However, I was not prepared for the wind. The wind was, I think, the biggest problem of being there during the rainy season, the monsoon season.
Right.
Because the wind is something, if you're not prepared for it, it can throw you off a lot. And that is a little more bothersome while you're trying to do things, right? Like you're being blown away sometimes.
You're going to be feeling a little blown away. If you're eating in a restaurant, the wind's going to blow the rain in sideways. They can't block that as much.
Yeah, there's even some instances where you can't even use an umbrella because it's too windy.
Yeah.
And, maybe you need like a rain jacket, which goes into our next point.
So sort of our next tip is pack appropriately. Of course, you're going to pack all of your normal stuff for your beachy vacation, but if you're going in monsoon season, you're going to want to make some small adjustments to your packing list. The first thing is pack a rain jacket. I was really glad I had that. I don't think you brought yours.
I think I brought it, but I
didn't use it.
I tried to brave without it.
Yeah, but I get cold easily, so when the wind and the rain was really kicking up, I was really glad I had that kind of light layer. The next thing, if you are someone that wears sundresses, pack longer dresses. I packed a lot of knee length or shorter sundresses, and that was not vibing real well with how windy it was. Mm-hmm. I wish I'd packed some longer skirts or maxi dresses. So that's something I totally would not have thought of prior to this trip. But yeah, if it's going to be real windy, pack stuff that's a little longer.
Yeah.
And then the last thing is pack a hat, obviously for sun protection as well. But we brought hats that had a string tie on them.
Right.
And that was a godsend from it going into the ocean, because I think without the string, you probably would have.
You probably would have lost it the first 5 minutes.
So rain jacket, Longer dresses if you're a dress person.
Yeah.
Hat with a string.
Yeah.
And one more thing is, we've talked a lot about these intense rains, these intense winds, and staying in an overwater villa, you might be thinking, how safe is that?
Yeah.
And I want to say we felt incredibly safe in our villa the entire time. We spent a lot of time in it because the weather wasn't great.
Yeah.
And other than the back door rattling a little bit,
Yeah.
honestly, it never felt unsturdy or unsafe. You never really felt it moving or anything like
and
that.
And the water wasn't as flat as, like, normally I think the water there should be flat.
Yes.
These were like, there were waves coming through, right? Like, and you could, like, it wasn't rocking or moving or anything. So I think that was definitely don't be worried, I think, to go during
you don't
this
have
season.
to be scared about your safety necessarily in an overwater villa. We felt like it was very sturdy and safe.
They deal with this all the time, so I think they know how to handle it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And one of our last tips is having the right mindset when you're going.
Probably the most important tip, honestly.
Right. The mindset, I think, can change your entire vacation. Yeah. And that's one of the things where we had a great vacation because we came into it with the right mindset.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think the first one as a part of this is setting realistic expectations. Mm-hmm. We knew we were going in the rainy season. We were taking advantage of that more affordable sort of price to go to the Maldives. Like, we wanted to check this off our bucket list, and to make that possible, we had to kind of go in.
We had to compromise a little bit.
Compromise, yeah. So I think going in, knowing, like, just go in with the expectation it's going to rain and be windy every day. That's why I think you were looking at the weather even a lot going in. So they're getting a little worried about it and being upset. And I was sort of like, let's just look at it as if it's going to be horrible weather 100% of the time. Yeah. And what would we do in that situation, right? And I think, like, it's like, just be prepared for the weather to be bad. Mm-hmm. And then that way it will either meet your expectations
or you'll be pleasantly surprised
if the weather is better. So I think that's a real important one.
And once you're there, I think being flexible is really, really important. Not having, like, your day scheduled out to the minute. There was a lot of times where we're like, oh, the sun's out, let's go. Yeah. And just, like, throw on our bathing suits, go to the other side of the island where there was a calmer beach, and just kind of be ready to change your plans at any given moment because the weather can change really, really, really quickly.
Yeah, that was one example where I was up early and I was taking some photos of the sunrise. Yeah. And once I'd done that, I sort of ran inside and I went, Marissa, the sun is out.
We gotta go.
We have to go now. And so it was maybe 7:30 or something. We put on our bathing suits and we walked over to the other side of the island, right? So I think, I 100% agree there.
The other piece of this is when you're being flexible and you've got this mindset of it might be raining all the time, don't get complacent with your sunscreen. If you are like us and tend to burn, we let our guard down, which I have never done in my adult life. Mm-hmm. I am normally really intense about making sure I have sunscreen on at all times. I'm wearing sunscreen now, even though I'm inside. The one time the sun came out,
we got really excited.
We got so excited. We're like, it's not going to be that long. It's fine. And we both got burnt to a crisp.
Yeah, with it. And the Maldives sun is very quick to burn you, right? Yeah. Like, it was probably only 30 minutes. And we had already got burnt in the time of sitting there and going back to the room to pick up our sunscreen, which we left there.
Right.
Yeah. And I think overall, our motto kind of while there was, we're still in the Maldives.
We're still in the Maldives.
Regardless of what the weather is, it's still one of the most beautiful places you'll ever see in your life. Like, where we're sitting in our overwater villa. Like, how many times can you say that, right?
In, like, the comfiest bed you've ever slept in.
So if it's raining, just, like, hang out in your bed, open up the blinds and look out at the amazing, amazing water. The water is still super clear. Yeah. You're in paradise and you just got to take advantage of it regardless of what the weather is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right, and that sums it up. That's our sort of tips, tricks, and pros and cons of going to the Maldives
in the off-season.
The off-season, yeah. So thanks for watching. If you like this content, give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with all our future videos. So, see you next time.
Bye.
Bye. And we went in a time where, nope. And I think one of the final pros, nope.
Shut up for